Hello, Tennessee viewers and readers. This is David Plazas, the Opinion and Engagement Director here, and I have the pleasure of having Jeff Syracuse, council member and also a candidate for Metro Council at-Large. Jeff, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you, David. How are you?
Doing excellent. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And let's tell the viewers, why are you running for this position?
So I'm running on a few different areas. So what I've been able to do in Donaldson over the past 8 years is really capitalize on the general plan that we put in place back in 2014 or 2015, which we called Nashville Next, which was, okay, downtown is a success. What's next? And it looks at creating sustainable little small downtown communities throughout the county where we can focus growth, where we can connect transit, where we can focus on affordable housing. So I think two of our biggest issues is transit and affordable housing. And I really feel like over the past several years, a decade or so of talking about these two issues, we have missed the boat in a way about ensuring we talk about them together. They are intrinsically linked. They are related very directly with helping to lower the cost of living, which a lot of folks across the county are burdened with. So meeting that intersection between transit and affordable housing, I think is absolutely critical that as we grow, it means inclusive and balanced growth, equitable growth. Whether you've lived here for multiple generations or you moved here last week, we've got to make sure that our success is reaching everybody. So I think Donaldson can be a model for, obviously every community across the county is unique, but from a broad perspective, it's a model about how we create balanced and inclusive growth. I would say the second thing that I'm running on is helping to protect and advance our culture, our history. Rapid growth and development has the unfortunately negative aspect where we become a victim of our own success. When you look at how we've grown and how we've become successful, we've attracted 5 different industries. It's the advanced manufacturing, healthcare, tech, corporate relocations, and then music. Well, the first 4 are starting to drive out the 5th. All of these high-paying jobs, which is good for our economy, is starting to really rub out the very special culture that is bringing people here in the first place. So my 25 years of experience of understanding the complexities of federal copyright law and how that impacts the working songwriter, musician, artist here in Nashville, I think is a critical component to makes us the very unique city that we are. And then just broadly, the 8 years of experience that I've had, especially going through some tumultuous times in helping us navigate us through those, I think that institutional knowledge is important as we move forward. Whether it's historic and cultural preservation, whether it's private-public partnerships to move us forward with proper infrastructure development, and a number of things. Being the chair of public health and safety this past year, the chair of parks, arts, and libraries, I think this experience at an at-large level will help us move council forward in a responsible and meaningful direction.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that as I've been speaking to several candidates and reading all their questionnaire answers, growth is the big issue. This is the big issue and how people fit into that growth. You've mentioned the music industry. And I remember when I first arrived here 9 years ago, there was the talks about the end of the musical middle class simply because of the cost of living and the factors that you mentioned. What are some of the things that you can do as a Metro Council at-Large member along with the city to help alleviate some of that tension?
Sure, absolutely. You know, the true equity issue for creatives in this town isn't a creative issue at all. It's a real estate issue, as we know. Look, our local independent music venues have been struggling to have a sustainable future. Most of them don't own the building that they're in. And as we know, rapid growth and development is steamrolling over that very special culture that they create, which are also economic incubators, if you will, of our creative economy. And so it's important that we can still be pro-growth, but with a conscience. And so if we are losing those critical cultural incubators for just more development that doesn't serve the very special DNA that we have as a city, well, we have a problem there. I look at places like Station Inn in the middle of the Gulch, which is surrounded by all this new development, but the Station Inn is a reason why people come here. And so when you look at the arts community in general, we're not spending the same amount that our peer cities are on arts and culture. And when I think about looking 20 years out from now, when we become a truly great international city on this planet, what are the real things that people come here for? It's in other cities across the globe. It's arts, it's culture, it's unique aspects that they can't get anywhere else in other city. That's why they come to visit. Those are the very special elements that we have to make sure we protect and revere, because they're very unique to this city, and that's why people come here. So there is economic aspects such as real estate equity that other cities are going through. Austin, Seattle, even London have done things like a cultural land trust, if you will, to try to bring that private-public partnership together to say, we realize that you have property rights and you may want to sell your property, but instead of selling to that condo or apartment developer, how about sell to this land trust where we can make you whole, but at the same time, we are protecting and advancing that critical cultural asset. Those are the kinds of things I want to do as an at-large member.
One of the things you mentioned too in the questionnaire was your desire to reinvigorate the regional transportation discussion as well. You mentioned transit and affordable housing a little bit earlier. So could you talk a little bit more of how you mean when it comes to those regional discussions?
Sure, absolutely. So we do need to focus internally to Davidson County as far as making our transit system more robust to meet the diverse needs of our county. But my experience over the past more than 8 years now, having the very first train station outside of downtown with the only commuter rail system in Middle Tennessee, it's very interesting how this collaborative regional partnership is working. I've been on the Rail Authority board. I was on the Rail Authority board for about 6 years of my time on council, where I would go out to Lebanon and work with the county mayors, the local town mayors. And it is proof that bipartisanship can exist. We all work together. The rising tide lifts all boats, which is good for the rural counties on freight, is good for Davidson County because it's about transit. And we're all investing in the rail line. There's other regional connections that we need to make. As we know, the counties around us are growing, some of them at a more rapid pace than Davidson County. And so I think we need to both focus on internal Davidson County with transit, but we also need to lead regionally with our counties around us to make sure that we are also addressing our regional needs, because that is a big part of our traffic congestion, is a lot of people coming in for jobs and then driving back out. So we need a dual focus when it comes to transit, which is both internal to Davidson County, but also regionally.
And one of the things too that you have worked on a lot of is you've talked about the arts community is creating this council recently that there was a lot of discussion about it. And how does that work? And what is your vision for how that might work in the future?
Sure. So you're talking about the Music, Film, and Entertainment Commission.
Yes.
So this is something that Mayor Dean's administration started the Music City Music Council, which was just internal to his administration. And the one thing that we learned, especially as mayoral administrations have changed or whatnot, is there wasn't a stability to ensure that no matter who's in the mayor's office, that this is a prime focus for the city. And so what we ultimately did is, working with the Mayor Cooper's administration, he did last year create the mayor's office of Music, Film, and Entertainment. And so what we did at the legislative branch now is we created a complementary commission that is going to work directly with the mayor's office of Music, Film, and Entertainment and ensures a stable connection, because these commissioners now will be the ones to hire the director that sits in the mayor's office. So that brings that sustainable connection between the commission and the mayor's office, who will effectuate policy that these commissioners will come up with. So it certainly took some back and forth and trying to figure out where that sweet spot is, if you will, and that connection between legislative and executive branch. I'm very excited about where we ended. I'm excited about the extraordinary skill sets that we have, that the commissioners are going to bring to this new commission for both our music, our film, and our various other entertainment industries. It's critical that we have this more proactive approach to ensure their long-term success.
Another issue that has been brought up by several candidates is the one of public safety, and whether real or perceived, the issue that people maybe don't feel as secure as they once did. There was a discussion. We're recording this on August 18th, and this past week was the final Metro Council meeting of the term. The license plate readers was one of the prime issues that was discussed in expanding that program. Would you talk a little bit about your public safety approach?
So I've been the chair of public health and safety for the past year. When Vice Mayor Schulman made me chair of public health and safety, one of the very first issues that I got involved with was taking the opioid settlement dollars and making sure that we are having a plan, because those settlement dollars are going to be coming in for some time. And that is an epidemic in of itself that we have to address. Long-term public safety really comes from public health. And I know that we've been hearing this from a lot of folks over the years, whether it's defund the police because we want to put money over here. I hear that loud and clear. Now, I don't think that we need to defund the police in order to put the right amount of investment in the other areas that creates true long-term public safety. But I do agree that that long-term public safety does come from more of a health perspective, from social services, from lifting up communities so that ultimately they don't have to have interactions with the police. And I think that is a shared vision, if you will. So whether it's the opioid settlement funds, it's ensuring that we have the right kind of social programs that lift people up, obviously addressing homelessness and ensuring that 90-unit transitional housing development with the right kind of wraparound services. We always still need to invest in public safety, whether it's the license plate readers, which I did agree with, or ensuring that our officers and our public safety officials are paid a competitive wage. All of that is critically important, but it has been an extraordinary experience for me in the area of public health and safety to see the evolution about how much public health, our health department, is getting involved in public safety. And the gun violence epidemic that we are dealing with right now is one such example. We had the 3-meeting series of school safety and gun violence that I led after the Covenant tragedy. And the one interesting aspect of the final meeting that we brought the Office of Family Safety together, the Mayor's Office of Community Safety together, the Mental Health Cooperative. What was interesting, after they all spoke, they realized that we have a solid 10 to 15 years of investment in this area. We need to figure out more of a long-term strategic plan about how we synergize all of those efforts. And so it's one of the things I hope to lead on in council as an at-large member.
Thank you. All the candidates were asked about the relationship between the state and the metro government. And one of the things that you wrote was, we've already seen their actions result in costly litigation that shouldn't be necessary. Instead of communicating through legislation and litigation, we should try and work towards more proactive means by which we can achieve common ground and respect. Would you talk a little bit more about this relationship and how it might improve over the next 4 years?
I think especially whether it's social media or just the media in general, we seem to be talking over each other with platitudes and rhetoric and whatnot. And obviously there's areas where we disagree, and where there's areas where we need to push back and we need to fight against policies that are against marginalized communities, that underserved communities. We need to speak out against that. The gun violence epidemic, we need to have very meaningful conversations that aren't filled with rhetoric. That other communities have been able to achieve across this country. But there are a lot of common areas where we can agree. I just talked about transit and infrastructure. These are critical areas. In Congress, the transportation infrastructure package with the Biden administration passed that is investing a lot in communities across this nation. Those are issues where we need to sit face to face with our colleagues at the state level. We need to have more proactive meetings with them to talk about these areas where we can agree. I will give you one great example. After our county was gerrymandered, so we now have 3 congressmen instead of 1 cohesive representative, I had a very wonderful lunch with Congressman John Rose, my congressman. Now, he and I may disagree on a number of issues, but the one area where we agreed is that investment in the WeGo Star line is good for the rural part of the area that he represents and it's good for Davidson County part that he represents. So where he actually did help me out was he requested an earmark for some infrastructure dollars to help us as we build out Donaldson Station into a regional transit hub. I want to try to help bridge those relationships. I want to help sit down with our colleagues on both parties so that we can move forward as a region. It is critically important. We know that Nashville creates about 38% of the GDP of the entire state. That is important to both our state partners and here locally, of course. We need to make sure we come together, sit down with each other, and focus on those issues where we can agree.
Well, thank you so much. And as we get to near the conclusion, I always like to ask guests a little bit about some of the places they recommend to visitors. You mentioned the Ryman and the Grand Ole Opry, as well as local independent music venues and the Nashville Zoo and Adventure Science Centers. So tell me a little bit about why you like those areas and why do you recommend those areas?
Well, those are just unique cultural things that you can't get anywhere else. It's interesting, during the pandemic, when some of our local independent music venues took their federal dollars that they were getting to help make sure that they were able to stay afloat during the pandemic when they were closed, they took those dollars and invested in themselves to have live streams. It was extraordinary. Station Inn, for example, people from around the world were watching those streams of Station Inn. And of course, now that we're past all that and people are coming back here, just to say that they went inside Station Inn is an extraordinary, unique opportunity that Nashville offers. And again, so I go back to what I was talking about how critically important it is that we protect those cultural assets that drive good quality tourism and drives dollars to our operating budget. So whether it's the zoo, whether it's the Ryman, which of course has an extraordinary history, whether it's the Grand Ole Opry up the street here in my district, or those local independent music venues where they can hear extraordinary music every day of the week. That's why people come to Nashville, and that's what we're proud of. That's Nashville's culture, and something we want everybody to experience.
Jeff Syracuse, I want to thank you so much for your time. Before I let you go, tell people how they can find out more about you.
Absolutely. So I'm everywhere on social media, of course. Being one of the guys who started Hip Donaldson, you can go on Hip Donaldson, where I'm tagged a lot on different things. So I pride myself on being very communicative and responsive to all of my neighbors. But you can go to jeffsyracuse.com on my website. Everybody can call me, 615-886-9906. Visit me online on all the social media platforms, where I try to be very responsive and engaging. So thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. Best of success to you, and I appreciate your time and your service to the community.
Thanks. Take care.